Hello and welcome to the Jesus Witch podcast. I'm your host, Lena El-Sayali, also known as Lena the Jesus Witch on TikTok and Instagram. The Jesus Witch podcast is a show dedicated to opening the conversation about including Jesus in witchery practices. The goal of this podcast is to not be evangelical. The goal is to spread the love, light, truth, acceptance, and oneness that is Jesus Christ himself. Here at the Jesus Witch podcast, we believe all people are loved by God and all people are loved by Jesus. We believe in community and the power of fellowship. We believe in giving whatever you reasonably can to help your neighbor who's in need. And above all, we believe in the power of creating a relationship with Jesus that is authentic and unique to you. Join me for new episodes of the Jesus Witch podcast every single Monday, and be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app. Welcome to a new episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. I'm your host, Lena El-Sayali, also known as Lena the Jesus Witch on TikTok, Instagram, and now Facebook and YouTube. Today's episode is inspired by Valentine's Day, which is coming up really soon because around this time of year, a lot of people are talking all about the love of the romantic variety, but I want to hear more talking about the love of the self variety. So today's episode of the Jesus Witch podcast is going to be all about self-love, self-care, and self-appreciation, magic, and tips. So before we jump into the episode, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. You may have noticed that in the beginning, I introduced myself as Lena the Jesus Witch from not just TikTok and Instagram, but from Facebook and YouTube as well. So recently, TikTok sold to stay in the United States, and along with that, they changed their terms and conditions, which really limits spiritual creators. I've noticed ever since then, my videos are not getting moved around at all. Like, just for a numbers example, I have 23 almost 1,000 followers on TikTok. I'm at 22.9 as of recording this. And I posted something at night, and normally it gets a couple of hundred views at least. Like, my views haven't been great lately. They haven't been what they used to be, but it's okay. We're still trucking. We're still going. But anyway, that particular video got 22 views. And that is a video that I know I make similar content to that all the time, and it gets hundreds of views. So I knew, like, it wasn't the content's fault. It was the algorithm. So if you've been here for a while, you know I've toyed with YouTube before. It's just like really overwhelming for me to add a whole other platform. I did love Instagram for a really long time. And then when TikTok really became my jam, it just became hard for me personally to keep track of more than one app. And I did the mistake. I will say that this is a mistake. So if you want to be a content creator or have a platform or do something, like, I would advise against this, but I put all of my eggs in the TikTok basket. And instead of diversifying my content, I just stayed there even when things were kind of tracking low. And now I'm at a point where it's abysmal. So I have no other choice but to pivot. My astrologer, the last time I met with her, she told me that this was going to happen. So I'm not surprised. I just need to get my stubborn Taurus sun and Taurus moon in the program. You know what I'm saying? Get with it. So anyway, along with my TikTok and my Instagram that I've always had. And I've been more consistent and more like trying to focus on growing my Instagram for the past couple of months. But now it's going to really be like, I'm going to really be focusing on my Instagram. I made a Facebook to go along with that. And I'm also going to start posting on my YouTube page again. So if you could give me a follow on all of those platforms, I would really appreciate it. Anytime you see my content come across your feed, if you could interact with it, I would also really appreciate that. If you have ideas for like long form videos that you would like to see on YouTube, please join my free Discord group, the Jesus Witch Church, and give me some ideas in the ideas and feedback chat of the church Discord. I would really appreciate it. I had said in my 2026 like goals episode that one of my goals is going to be like adding more podcast episodes, but I think I'm going to pivot that goal And instead of focusing on like doing 2 podcast episodes a month, I would like to do 1 podcast episode, keep that going, and then maybe 1 long form video on YouTube. So if there's anything you would like to see over there, let me know. Yeah, but that is the whole gist with that. That's a little housekeeping that we had to do today. It's also like particularly frustrating for me because I created my Instagram with my personal Facebook account, so I can't like directly link my Lena the Jesus Witch Facebook page to my Instagram and like just cross post like that, like every other creator can in the entire universe. For me, because I got that Chiron conjunct my ascendant, it has to mess with me. So I have to like manually post to 4 different platforms every time I post, pretty much, which is going to be exhausting. It's going to be tiring, but you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to be consistent with it. And if I find it to be too overwhelming, I will pivot again because I can pivot. It's okay. Anyways, that was my own little personal rant and housekeeping for the day. You can find the links to all of my social media, including my new Facebook and YouTube page, in the show notes page. Also in the show notes, you can find my Discord group. You can find my Etsy shop, my Patreon, all of that good stuff. In there, there's also the Ministry of Christ under the Order of Divine Christian Mysticisms information, which is the official ministry that myself, Hannah, Mimi, and Sarah, which are other Christian witches, you probably know them. Anyway, we all created a legit like Christian witch ministry by Christian witches, for Christian witches, with Sunday sermons, community, all of that good stuff. So anyways, you can find all of the things I'm doing in the show notes page. But now, let us begin talking about self-love, self-care, and self-appreciation in a magical way. Before we could talk about actual self-love, self-care, and self-appreciation magic, we need to talk about why it is important for Christian and Jesus witches and what the Bible actually says on the topic. So I have 3 different Bible verses that I want to share with you and talk to you about that really helped to shape my personal self-love practice. The first verse that we're going to talk about is my favorite one and a very big part of my self-love practice. This is also arguably the most important self-love Bible verse in the entire Bible because it's a literal commandment from Jesus that we have to love ourselves. So we are looking at Matthew 22, verse 39, which says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." You need to love others the way that you love yourself. If you are not loving yourself, you cannot properly love others. And if you are loving on others, you need to properly love on yourself. This is red letter text. So this is a direct commandment from Jesus Christ himself telling us that we need to love ourselves so that we can love our neighbors. I think about this particular verse a lot from the perspective of being a parent because I have preached for years that as a mom, you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of your kids. And I know there are things that like, for me, my kids usually eat before I do kind of things. That's how I take care of them first before I take care of me. But I'm talking about those things that like really fill your cup. Like I personally cannot go into a homeschooling session if I don't take a few moments to like meditate, sniff some of my spell oils, talk to Jesus for a minute. Not even Jesus, sorry. Talk to Mother Mary for a moment because we all know homegirl had the patience of a saint. She had to deal with toddler Jesus, okay? So I connect with her. I really get myself in the mindset to do it before I do it. And that's a way that I love myself before I love my kids so that I can actually effectively love them and care for them. And no matter what your situation is, it's a commandment from Jesus Christ himself to love yourself the way that you love your neighbors. The next passage that we're going to look at is Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14, which say, "For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Now a quick break from this week's episode of the Jesus Witch podcast to talk about a few ways you can help support the show. One way you can help support the creation of the Jesus Witch podcast is to become a supporter of us on Patreon. On our Patreon, there are 4 different tiers that you could choose from, and they're all named after tarot cards. We have the Fool, the Magician, the Hierophant, and the High Priestess. In the Fool tier, you get early ad-free episodes of the Jesus Witch podcast, extended show note pages when available, Christian tarot grimoire pages, and access to our monthly community oracle reading. In the Hierophant tier, you get everything from the Fool tier, tarot spreads to help your connection with Christ, Spirit, your higher self. I also like to put out new tarot spreads for each full moon or new moon, Wheel of the Year holiday, and zodiac sign. In the Magician tier, you also get 1 Bible-based spell grimoire page each month. This teaches you how to incorporate the Bible into your own spell practice. In the Hierophant tier, you get everything from the Fool and the Magician tiers, as well as a Happy Mail package from me every single month with the ingredients to make a spell, as well as an extra Bible-based spell page for your grimoire. And then you get access to our spellcasting Zoom each month where we do the spell that I sent you together. In the High Priestess tier, you get everything from the Magician, Fool, and Hierophant tiers, as well as an extra Bible-based spell from the Sun and Moon Oily Co. in your Happy Mail package each month, and a one-on-one Zoom call with me every single month to discuss your practice, how you're growing, and any suggestions that I could give to you to help you on your path. Patreon tiers start at $6.66 per month, and you can find the link to that in the show notes page. Another way you can help support the show is by shopping at my Etsy shop, the Sun and Moon Oily Co. Over on the Sun and Moon Oily Co., I offer Bible-based spell oils, ritual bath salts, Jesus Witch or Christian Witch specific mystery boxes, and custom spell oils. Over on my Etsy shop is where you can also book different types of readings with me. I offer tarot readings for your inner child, channel messages from Jesus or from Lilith. I also have a listing for general tarot readings. You could grab a soul contract reading between yourself and another person, or yourself and a deity that you're working with or curious to work with, or even grab an astrology reading for yourself or an astrology reading for your kiddos to help you parent them better and more effectively. There's also Jesus Witch merch on my Etsy shop and so many other things that I am planning on adding to my shop. So head over to the Sun and Moon Oily Co. to check that out. Another thing you can do to support the growth of the Jesus Witch podcast is join our Discord community. The Jesus Witch Church is our free 18+ Discord community where we host Jesus Witch church services and moon circles. This is your place to ask all Jesus Witch or witchy questions in general and make some really awesome friends. You can find the link to our church in the show notes page. Another free way you could support the Jesus Witch podcast is by sharing this show with a friend and rating it on whatever podcasting app you're using with 5 stars. Leaving us a nice review really helps get the word out about the show, and don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app. Another thing you could do to help the creation of the show is send a donation to the Jesus Witch podcast via Cash App or PayPal. It takes a lot of time and effort for me to create the Jesus Witch podcast, and getting donations helps me get the support and help that I need to be able to create this type of content for you. Donations also help keep this podcast free to everybody, so if you love this show and the information that's being put out there, please consider sending a donation to my PayPal or my Cash App. The username on both is the Jesus Witch podcast, but the link for both of those can be found in the show notes page. And the final way that you could help support the creation of the Jesus Witch podcast is by sending me a gift. In the show notes page, I have the link to my Amazon wish list. Everything that I put on this wish list was put there to help create content for you. Simply put, buying things off of this Amazon wish list helps me so that I don't have to purchase them myself, so I can put more of my resources in towards making the Jesus Witch podcast. If you would like to support the Jesus Witch podcast by buying me a gift or in any other way, you could find all the links to everything mentioned in this ad in the show notes page. Now let's get back to the show. The note that I wrote about this verse is that this verse is self-love and appreciation in a nutshell. It's the knowing that you were intentionally made. Everything about you was handpicked by God and the goddess, and you're praising them for what they have made. So I know some of us have things, some of us, let's be so for real. All of us have things that we are insecure about. Things that we were born with that we want to change about ourselves. But what if those were the things that we should be praising the most? Those are the unique qualities that God and Ashra decided to assign just to you, specifically for you. And sometimes these qualities can add challenges to our life, but what do challenges do? If we look at them through a lens of growth, they help us move forward on our spiritual journey. And, now as I'm talking it out, or at least I'm saying this, I get that verse in my head in 2 Corinthians 12, where Paul was asking God to take away the thorn in his side. And God was basically saying no, because that's what makes you strong. So sometimes we have things that we don't necessarily like about ourselves, but I feel like this verse encourages us to learn how to love them about ourselves, and specifically to praise God and the goddess for those things, and just for all things about us, because we were so uniquely made and handpicked. And I think about it sometimes, Asher and God decided one day to make this 5-foot woman from New York who has kind of a weird New Yorkish accent and a very goofy personality. And they decided to make her super passionate about Jesus and witchery and homeschooling and just life in general, learning how to live and be your own person and share that. And that's why we're here today. Crazy. They decided to put all of these little awkward traits together so that we could all end up here today. Thank God for that. Thank you, God, for that quirky personality that you gave me. And thank you for that Libra rising that you gave me that makes me look flashy enough to get views on videos. And thank you for my voice. I love my voice. My voice is captivating. It's fun. It's interesting. When you listen to it, you're like, where's she from? Because it's clearly New York, but you don't know where in New York because it's a very odd accent. But yeah, praising the Lord, for those. I have this is going to be a weird one to say, but I have high anxiety. Thank you, God, for my anxiety. It makes me more vigilant, more observant. It helps me discern better with people. Thank you, God, for, sometimes being able to see things in a more of a negative lens, because I'm able to see the other side. I'm able to see where other people's pain points may be. Thank you, God, for these more challenging aspects of me and the way that they help me help others. You know what I'm saying? That's just an example of that. But yes, praise the Lord, praise the goddess, because you are fearfully and wonderfully and uniquely made. The final verse that we are going to be looking at is Ephesians 5:29, which says, "After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they fed and cared for their body, just as Christ does for the church." And what I wrote about this one is I like this verse because it frames our bodies as something that is important, that needs to be nourished and fed in the same way that we feed our church family. Or whatever that specifically means to you, maybe the way you feed your own family, your kids, or the way that you feed your neighbors, or the way that you feed your friends, or whatever it is, right? And for me, this is a verse that's similar to Matthew 22:39, because it frames self-care as not only something important that you do for yourself, but it's something that you do for God too. Self-care and self-devotion and self-appreciation is an act of worship. You are taking care of the body that God gifted to you. You are appreciating the life that God gifted to you. They didn't have to. God and Astra did not have to put you on the wake-up list this morning, right? So taking care of your body and nourishing your body is a privilege. And I feel like this verse frames it as such. Now that we've talked about a couple of Bible verses that show us that self-care is important to God, it's important to Jesus, it's important to our relationship to worship, let's talk about a couple of simple ways to practice self-love magic, and then we're going to do a little bit more ritualistic ways. So this first category, I feel would also fall under the mundane magic episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. I feel that's one of my best episodes. If I were to toot my own horn for a moment, I feel that's one of my best episodes with really practical tips for everyday witchery. And I feel I reference it all the time, not only in podcast episodes, but we're always referencing it in the Jesus Witch Church. I just feel that's a fan favorite, not only just of mine, but of my homies in the Jesus Witch Church. We all appreciates self-love. Not self-love. We all do appreciate self-love magic, but we all do appreciate the mundane magic episode. So I'm going to link that episode in the show notes page as well, because I feel like that episode and this one go hand in hand. So like I said, these first set of tips are going to be practical ways to involve self-love and self-appreciation magic into your everyday routine. My first tip is when you wash your face in the morning or at night to speak positive affirmations over yourself. This cleanses out any negative self-thought and encourages positive self-thought instead. And here's my little challenge to you with that tip. Create 3 positive affirmations based off of things that you are insecure about yourself with. So if I were doing this for me, I'm going to put my insecurities on blast right here. I would talk about my acne scars. I am kind of insecure about them, not just kind of, very insecure about them. I feel like they make my forehead look odd. One day I noticed them and I never stopped noticing them. You know, like it was just like, wow, like those are really like there and they're really noticeable. So if I were to make an affirmation based off of that, I would say I love my acne scars because they add definition and character to my face. And that's how my husband describes it. Like for him, he likes my acne scars because they make me look not like a smooth, like Barbie doll person. It adds definition to my face. And I think that's really sweet of him that he genuinely likes that about me. So that is how I would make that an affirmation as I'm washing my face. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about your face. Another thing that I'm kind of insecure about is my hands and my fingers. I think my fingers look like chicken finger bones and they're kind of weird and straggly and like, anyway. I would do, my hands are so strong, they hold my children's hands and that's such a blessing, or like something like that. You know, I would talk about how my hands are a blessing instead of focusing on the chicken fingeriness of them. So then another really simple tip, and this is definitely in our Monday Magic episode, is just turn your shower into a ritual shower by asking Spirit to be present as you cleanse yourself. So you could do this for cleansing negative self-thought. You could really put any intention that you want to a ritual shower. So I like to take ritual showers with Venus, and I imagine the water that is pouring out being like self-love and affection pouring all over me. So like just doing things like that where you're visualizing yourself clean out negative thoughts and instead be poured with positive thought and positivity and positivity and love over your body. Another example of this, something that I wrote down for the show notes page, was I like to ask Spirit to overflow my mental space with joy and peace the same way that the water is flowing from my shower. Another thing that you can do that is pretty simple, and I think I mentioned this in the Mundane Magic podcast episode as well, but it's pray over your shoes in the morning to ask Spirit to guide your path for the day. And the way that you can make this into more like self-love or self-appreciation magic is to like be grateful for the path that you're forming, right? So like praying over your day and then like preemptively thanking God for being there with your steps and thanking him for allowing you to take these steps in your life. I also think that self-appreciation magic has a lot to do with like being grateful for the blessings and the gifts that God has given you. Because that just creates your personality and like the things that you like and the things that you're able to do and just all that good stuff. So I think that praying over your path is something loving you can do for yourself every morning. Another thing I wrote down was you can cast a spell over your mirror so that you only see yourself in the best light. I really like that as a form of glamour magic because instead of your insecurities being highlighted, you're seeing all of the beauty that the god and goddess gave you. Another thing that you can do is use color magic to paint your nails with intention over the week or with the intention of self-love. So I often have pink nails for that reason, to draw self-love towards me, to draw like friendliness towards me, positive interactions towards me, but a lot of it centers around wanting to grow my self-love and my self-appreciation. And honestly, I just get a little giddy when I look down and I see pink nails. We also have a color magic episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. I will link that so you can learn a little bit more about colors and the intentions that align with them. My final everyday magic suggestion for growing your self-love and self-care practice is to dedicate your daily, weekly, whenever you do them, workouts to a deity or a spirit that is involved with your self-love and your self-appreciation relationship. For me, that's Venus. If you listened to my deities I work with and why episode, you would know that she is my self-love, self-care queen. Since October of 2025, I have been trying to move my body more and be more intentional with connecting to my yoga practice. I started doing yoga when I was pregnant with my eldest son, so I've been doing it for about 10 years now. I really, really, really love yoga. I give yoga a lot of credit for mobility that I retained during pregnancy, mobility that I retained after having a accident when the drunk driver rear-ended me. A big reason why I could still move my neck and my arms after having such a severe whiplash injuries, because I started doing yoga literally hours after the accident. I didn't go to the hospital after the accident. I probably should have. Hindsight is 2020. I would have done that had I known now what I knew then. But I did do yoga afterwards. So thankfully, a lot of my mobility was retained. I did lose some, but it's okay. I stretch it out. I will get it back eventually. I started reconnecting with my yoga practice after I did a Samhain Halloween event at Club Pilates in Portchester, New York. And I think I'm going to be doing another event there this February. So go to my Instagram or even my Facebook page. I will be posting events there too. But head over to either of those and to get more information. But anyway, when I was there to do readings, they let me take the Pilates class for free. And I forgot what the material or the tool was called, but they had us do some stretch where we were on this muscle roller thing on our back. And the next day when I woke up, my body was all good kinds of sore from doing a workout. I hadn't felt that in a long time because I've been pretty resistant towards intentionally working out, besides hiking and running after children and lifting the amount of groceries that it takes to feed 5 humans and running after crazy cats and all, I didn't intentionally work out aside from, my life, which is a workout. For a while, I've been pretty resistant towards that. But the next day, I felt the good kind of sore. It felt really good. And then I looked at my back, and my back had all the blood, the broken blood vessels, the same way it used to look when I got cupping and acupressure and acupuncture done. And I was like, oh my God, this is healing my body the same way that those services did. So I need to start taking this back into my own hands and doing more yoga and doing more exercise. So I started being really intentional with my yoga practice. I would love to do yoga every day. I do it now 2 to 3 times a week, which is a lot more than I used to do it. So yay me for that one. My son's currently watching The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Anyway, so for me, like I was saying before, my deity that I have for self-care is Venus. So when I work out, when I do yoga, I dedicate the practice to her. However, sometimes I don't just connect with her for yoga or for my workouts. I dedicate them to her. They're a form of worship to her, keeping my body hot and gorgeous, whatever. I don't know what to put there. Is definitely Venus worship. But sometimes, because yoga is such a spiritual and inward practice that comes with the physical, I sometimes connect with Jesus during it. I connect with Ashra during it. I connect with God during it. I actually will say I mostly connect with Ashra during yoga because certain positions make me think of nature. And I'll be like standing there in like a warrior pose and be like, be as strong as a tree, like your Ashra tree, sturdy like Ashra, with the strength of the tree, but the nurturing of the woman and the goddess. Like that's what's going on in my head while I'm doing this. So I think that's a little like convoluted, but my yoga practice, my workout practice is dedicated to Venus. It's a worship of her to move my body, to stay fit, to stay hot. But when I am doing yoga, I'm not just connecting to her. I am usually connecting to Ashra 9 out of 10. Now that we've talked about a few simple ways to add self-love magic to your everyday life, let's talk about a couple of intentional and more ritualistic ways to add this type of magic to your practice. Not saying that everyday magic isn't intentional. It absolutely is. I think it actually I'm going to eat my words here. I think it's actually more intentional to make mundane things magical and like incorporate the magic with your everyday versus like sitting down and just doing a spell. Because when you're incorporating magic to your everyday, you're literally sitting there and being like, hey, spirit, like, I know I'm just filing my taxes, but I want you here with it. Like, that's super intentional versus like when you go to do a spell, you're already in the mindset and the headspace and probably the visual space of being with spirit. So, interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that thought for you right there. But here's a couple of like more ritualistic, like traditional witchcrafty tips on creating self-care magic. So this piggybacks off of the last point that I made with like daily magic, with your workout routine, dedicating it to a deity that's there for your self-care. First step in that, dedicate a deity to your self-care. So I talked about this in my deities I work with in Y episode, but I used to dedicate Jesus to my self-care because like we talked about in the beginning, there's a lot of Bible verses about self-care. Like it is important for God and for Jesus and for Ashra for you to take care of yourself. Like that is literally a commandment, is you loving yourself. But when I found out I was a Libra rising instead of a Scorpio rising, I felt really drawn to Venus. I'm a Taurus sun, a Taurus moon, and now I'm a Libra rising. So my entire big three is Venus. And that's not even like discussing the fact that my Venus sign itself is in Taurus. So I'm literally Venetian. Like I could have come from that planet. So when I realized this, I wanted to bring Venus into my practice. I felt like I was just meant to work with her from my planetary, placements. And then I'm also Italian. So Venus is like the Roman goddess of love and beauty. If I weren't Italian, I probably would be working with Aphrodite. Like I think about that a lot. But Venus called out specifically to me through my heritage, through my astrological placements. And at first, my relationship with her was just like really one-on-one. Recently, I decided I want to do tarot readings for clients channeling Venus, specifically to do self-love and self-care readings. Like, do not come to me for a romantic reading. I am not your girl for that. I am not. But if you want me to talk to Venus about how you should love yourself, how you should care for yourself, how you can grow in your self-care practice, I'm your girl for that. And the only reason I decided that I wanted to do this with Venus is because it's literally so enjoyable for me as a person to do that. I also recently got the Eras Tarot deck. Like, it's a tarot deck of all the eras from Taylor Swift. I think the only era that's not there is Life of a Showgirl. They'll probably do an updated deck with Life of a Showgirl. And then I'll probably get another Eras Taylor tarot deck. But I dedicated that deck to Venus. If you've been around for a while, you know that my OG Venus candle was a Saint Taylor Swift candle. So it's like full circle to be using those cards with her. And like, quite honestly, part of why I am offering readings with Venus to do self-care readings is because I want to use that tarot deck more. It's just so much fun because along with the reading of the cards, you get songs because there's a song associated to like every card, except for like the kings and the queens. Those don't get a song, but it is so fun to have the songs there too. And I feel like along with the reading, you get like a little playlist to listen to as well. So I feel like that just makes the whole self-love reading with Venus even more fun. So yeah, I had to add that to my Etsy shop. I'm just really excited about it. It's really fun. The couple of readings that I've done so far have been really exciting for me to do. I really like seeing the songs that people get, and I've been told that they resonate. So any hoozles, those are on my Etsy shop now. But to go back to my point, I work with Venus for self-love. So picking a deity who you feel like aligns with like self-love and appreciation and has a vested interest in your self-care really helps motivate you magically to create a self-love practice, at least in my opinion. Some colors that I really like to use for self-love magic include yellow to find joy in yourself, pink, obviously, for love, for kindness, for happiness, red for passion, so that you could be like more passionate and deeply invested into yourself. I also really like purple to find comfort in your relationship with yourself. And finally, I really like gold because that helps you see yourself as a precious gift the way that God sees you. Some crystals that I really like for self-love and appreciation magic: rose quartz, obviously for love, flower agate for joy. I also feel like flower agate helps you connect to your inner child, and I feel like it also helps you connect to your like inner self and your highest self. Tiger's eye for self-confidence, to block out any negative thought patterns you may have about yourself. Those are really the only three that I particularly use for self-love magic. I am a Taurus, so I am a creature of habit, and I do actually use the same four things over and over and over again. So yeah, for self-love, I really love rose quartz, flower agate, and tiger's eye. And the way that I use these primarily, obviously if I'm doing candle magic, sometimes I put crystals around my candle, but I really love these crystals. Ooh, selenite. Selenite too. Selenite is a big one I use for self-care magic because it helps to cleanse out negative thoughts. Like sometimes when I'm having a really bad thought day, I will take my selenite wand and I'll put it like on top of my head. I don't touch my head to it. I don't like things touching the top of my head, but like right over the top of my head, I'll like spin it, like swirl it counterclockwise to remove. And then like I do like a motion of like picking up and flicking it off. I'm trying to pick the thoughts up from my head and flicking it off with my selenite wand. So that's another really good crystal for self-love and appreciation. But other than using the wand in that way, the way that I use crystals primarily in self-love magic is to put them around my bathtub when I do a ritual bath. I try to take a ritual bath like once a quarter, so 4 times a year. I'm more of a ritual shower girly, but when I take a ritual bath, it's like really intentional. That time is really set out for me to connect with myself, connect with Venus, and grow my love for myself. So I like to like make it all nice and aesthetically pleasing with these crystals that also boost my relationship with me. Some spell ingredients that I really love for self-love include Venus's Love Spell Oil, which is a spell oil that I make, and you can get it on my Etsy shop, but it's pink. It's pink, okay? Firstly, it's pink. It's made with like a lot of flowery scents. It really helps me to connect to my femininity. It makes me like really appreciate myself because I feel like I smell good and I feel like really magical with that oil on. It's a very whimsical feeling oil in my opinion. And I just feel like it deepens my relationship to how I love myself. And I use it primarily for self-love magic. I sometimes use it in relationship magic. Like when the moon is in Taurus or Libra, I like to do I like to do love spells for my husband and I. I also like to do self-love spells under a Taurus moon, but I digress. just because I am a Taurus moon. But anywho, when the moon is in a Venus sign, I like to do love spells for my husband and I occasionally. And sometimes I'll use my Venus's love spell oil for that, but mostly I use it for self-love. And it could be its own spell, or you can use it as an ingredient in candle magic, or I like to put it in my ritual baths. I actually also put it in my face cream. So I put a whole dropper full in my like face moisturizer. So I think that makes my face a little bit more magical, and my lotion definitely more magical. Besides my spell oil, I like roses, obviously, for love, mint to create clear thoughts about oneself, calendula to bring joy and healing to yourself, and then thyme to grow patience with yourself. I feel like a lot of self-love is inhibited by judgment, and a lot of times judgment comes from not being patient with ourselves or comparing ourselves to others, and I feel like thyme is a really good ingredient to remedy that. So a little ritual idea for self-love magic, and I would recommend doing this like once a week. I like to do my self-love magic on Fridays because that's Venus's day, but you could find a day that aligns better for you or whatever deity that you dedicate your self-love practice to. Like, let's say you do self-love with Jesus, right? You could do that on Sunday because he's the sun and Sunday is the sun's day. If you do it with Ashra or Mother Mary, you could do it on Monday because that's the moon's day, and moon is the mama day, and Ashra and Mother Mary are mamas kind of thing. If you decide to do it with like a divine masculine deity, like let's say the God of Abraham, you could do it on Thursday because that's Jupiter's day. So you could have good luck in your relationship to self and good luck with your self-love. Or you could do it on Saturday, which is Saturn's day, and be very disciplined with it. But anyway, whatever day you pick, choose a day that's more dedicated to self-love and appreciation, and then just do a simple ritual. So what I like to do is I take a chime candle. I usually pick pink because pink is my favorite self-love color. So I put a pink chime candle on my altar with Venus's candle. I also have a statue for Venus, and I also have a rose quartz woman body that I dedicated to her. So I put those all on my altar. My flower agate moon goes on my altar. I'll put some flowers on my altar as well. So I have a lot of dried roses for her. And then just other dried flowers that I have gotten from bouquets from Trader Joe's. I love a petite bouquet from Trader Joe's. They're only $4 and bring so much joy to my life and my house. So I always have one of those in my house, at least I try. And then any dried flowers that are really nice and still in good condition, I save them and I put them on Venus's altar. And then on Fridays when I'm doing my self-love magic, I put them on my altar, surround the candle with it. Sometimes I sprinkle a little mint on my candle. I always dress it with my Venus's love spell oil. And then I light my candle and I will say 3 positive affirmations about myself that usually stem from insecurities that I had throughout the week. So I try to do this every week to just grow my self-love, to have a good ritual with self-love, and to have a sustained practice where I am dedicating time to me, appreciating me, and giving myself credit for all that I do. The final, more magical tip that I have for you is something that I actually have not done, but I feel called to talk about it because I think it would be a really good idea for somebody who's currently struggling with their relationship to self, currently struggling with accepting themselves, or like just wishing that they were somebody different, or like not really feeling content in yourself. Create an altar dedicated to you. We all have altars. Well, generally, we all have altars for our deities. You know, I have an altar for Venus. I have an altar for God and Ashra. I have an altar for my business. I have an altar for my children. But what about having an altar for yourself? You know, I don't feel like I personally need this. I think my Leo midheaven would take it too far. Next thing we know, instead of a Saint Swift candle being dedicated to Venus, we'll see a Saint Lena candle dedicated to Venus. Oh my god, that'd be so funny. Now I feel like I have to make it for the inside joke. Oh my god, I feel like I have to do that for the inside joke. That would piss the evangelicals off so much. Oh my goodness, should I do it? Should I do it? Please encourage me to do this. Anyway, no, don't encourage my Leo midheaven, don't. Anyway, back on track. creating an altar for yourself, okay? So put things on your altar that you like, put things on your altar that, like, you know, like I was saying before, being appreciative of the things that you may not like the most about yourself to help you learn to love them and appreciate them more. You know, put little like trinkets on your altar that remind you of you. So like if I were to do an altar for Lena, I would put a lot of tea on it. I'd put something related to being a Taurus on it. I would put some like rocks from a hike or like a nice picture of a tree on it. A picture of a tree. I'd put something like some fangirl stuff on it. So like definitely like a little bit of Taylor, a little bit of Twilight, a little bit of like One Direction. You know, you got to feed Lena's emo side too. So, you know, a little 21 Pilots, a little bit of Boy Genius on there. I'd put some food, particularly something sweet. So probably donuts, you know, even if it's a picture of a donut. Saint Lena would love that. I'd put like evil eyes on it. I love evil eyes. I feel really connected to my Middle Eastern heritage when I see evil eyes. Yeah, I'd put things like that, like little things that remind you of yourself and that you like. And, you know, writing, maybe keeping a journal on that altar of like, you know, you write down something you don't like about yourself, like, you know, the hands example. I don't like my hands because they look like chicken feet. Okay. Then under it, I will write, I like my hands because I've used them to nurture 3 children. I like my hands because they write all of the content that I post and I love my content. Like things like that. You know what I'm saying? I like my hands because I use them to make meals that make my Taurus moon very happy. So something like that where you have a visual representation of how much you love yourself and a space in your home dedicated to loving yourself. And with that, those are all of the tips and tricks that I have to share with you today about self-love and self-care magic. Let me know in the comments on Patreon or Spotify, or I'm going to be adding a post every single month to Facebook dedicated to the podcast episode to get some feedback. But I would like to know, what is your favorite way to do self-love or self-care magic? And if you haven't done any before, what in this episode is inspiring you to do some self-love or self-care magic? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I'm not even going to lie, recording this today was super duper frustrating. It has taken me, oh my gosh, almost 3 hours, because Luna really wanted her mom like all day. Look, hi you baby, you want to come say hi? Yeah, come here. She really wanted her mom today, so I kept having to take a break from recording and like do art with her or read with her, dance with her, whatever she wanted.
Hi.
You say hi, podcast.
Hi, podcast.
Oh, thank you for listening to Mommy's show.
Mommy show.
You're so cute. Oh my goodness. Yes, but she made it very, very, very challenging. So if you heard a lot of babiness in the background today, that is why she was with me most of the time. I'm not going to apologize for it because I'm not sorry for it. You know, this is real life. And part of the reason why in the ministry of Christ, under the order of divine Christian mysticism, I am known as the matriarch of the whole person, because this is me being my whole person. I'm recording my podcast episode, hanging out with my kids, you know, like I just let my life live. And it was frustrating for me. I'm not going to lie. I did shed a tear or two at certain points of like just being frustrated. But now that we are at the end of our episode, it is time for our verse of the episode. Today, we are going to be looking at Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4. I feel like we may have discussed this verse before, but it was the verse of the day the other day on my Bible app. And I read this and I was like, holy witchy God. Like, this is some witchiness in the Bible. So maybe it's just witchy to me because it mentions the moon and the stars. I don't know, but I like it. My astrology brain loves it. So anyway, the verses are, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. Like, I love that verse. Firstly, it is so witchy because we're talking about the moon and the stars. Like, can you get any more witchy than that? But I also love it because it feeds into this self-care episode really well. God loves us. The goddess loves us. We are part of their creation. The way that they care for the moon and the stars and the sun and the trees and the plants and the bees is the same way that they care for us. Like, that is so incredible. Like, us being here is not random. It is intentional. It is purposeful. And we need to love ourselves the way that they love us. We need to love ourselves the way that they love us so we can love our neighbors and just create a world filled with love and drown out all of the hate. So that is our verse. I hope that it resonated with you. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you again for listening to this podcast episode. Please, please, please give me a follow on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. If you're not already following me on TikTok, also follow me there. But more importantly, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check out the show notes page for my Etsy shop, my Discord group, the Ministry of Christ information, under the Divine Order of Christian Mysticism. That's like such a fucking cool name. It's long, but it's cool. What else is in that show notes page? Oh. I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning of the episode. Like, that's... Probably should have done that. Anyway, give this podcast episode a rating of 5 stars on whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. I would really appreciate it. So anyway, thank you for listening. Bye. And let me know in the comments on Patreon or Spotify, or I'm going to be adding a post every single month to Facebook dedicated to the podcast episode to get some feedback. But I would like to know, what is your favorite way to do self-love or self-care magic? And if you haven't done any before, what in this episode is inspiring you to do some self-love or self-care magic?